Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It's Mo Money with you, with his co-host G. Uh-oh, that logo's in the corner, G. You know what that means?
What am I
We're hitting up for a corner three on the At the Buzzer podcast. He's the guy that never brings the golf energy. How you doing today, G?
Let's go, man. I got some good energy today. I was with my nephew earlier, who's 10 now, and he's a little baller, man. And so I got to play some basketball with him, and we were doing some signature moves, and he was schooling me pretty good, and he was dropping dimes on me. So you know what? I'm feeling good. Love of the game, man. How are you doing?
Love of the game. I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. It's been an adventure this week, to say the least. Um, here at the Mo Money Sports Network and the family, which you're a part of, as the NBA Cup review video that I did after I called the Mavs and the Nuggets game
Hmm.
popped off for 85 views for some reason. So there's that. Um, which confused me a bit because, as you know, G, the ball content doesn't do as well as it should.
Mm.
But
Hey,
you know,
this could be
it
the
is what
whole
it is.
point, right? The whole point of the NBA Cup was to boost viewership for the NBA early season games and stuff. And so I think you're pointing to like a success, just even on the front of the podcast as an indicator. There's a general new interest in the NBA when the NBA Cup happened, or the
Can they
first round.
change the name at least?
They really should have, but at the same time, I can see why they did it. It's so simple. It's gonna transfer across the universe, right? NBA Cup. It's like it's impossible to not know what you're talking about.
That's why I named the podcast this way, is I wanted to start with this. And I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you a question now that we've had a few days to recover from the NBA Cup night one.
Mm,
And my question is, was it the fact that it's the NBA Cup, or was it the fact of it's a good night of regular season hoops?
I
Because we could have just got lucky with night one and had a great night of NBA hoops. I'm not sold on this NBA Cup concept just yet. Now
ah,
that I've had a few days to think about it, despite
okay.
the success of that video,
Hmm.
I I really think it was just a great night of hoops, and I had time to do a review video. So, uh,
Okay.
and you
Oh,
know what I think helped that video too is I don't think many people did a video reviewing the NBA Cup.
right. Okay. Okay. So okay. That would make sense. I honestly think there's something to it. There's something to put, like, it's not exactly rocket science. It's not
He's drinking the
exactly
Kool Aid. He's drinking the Kool Aid.
to the extent that I'm looking at the Kool-Aid and being like, you know what? I know why everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid is because they're using simple things to bring more eyes to something that guaranteed when it's normal, just people don't watch as much because it feels like every day. It's just normal. If you can manage to make something just special enough that it's not normal, it's not your everyday game. It's no matter what, it's not just a regular season game. The only difference was, colorful courts, the stupidest name, but it's enough to make it feel special. Like, I don't know if that's a commentary on humans or on the
You
NBA or,
heard me complain about the Nuggets court all night.
oh man,
Uh, for
they're so
for those
bold.
of you, huh?
It's so bold. You can't forget. Like, you notice this isn't a normal NBA game. You're like, what is this? And that's the whole thing. It's like everybody's just going,
I
what's this? What's this? For that
I
last.
completely did. I completely dislike the Denver Nuggets court. It drives me bonkers.
Honestly, all the courts look a little bit ugly to me, and I
No,
almost
but it's that gold streak going down the middle of the court. You just can't ignore it, and it drives me bonkers. And I
yeah,
only say that because I called the Dallas Denver game.
yeah.
And can I just say the Dallas Mavericks don't let this fool you. I'm gonna stick to this. They're not playing very well. They're winning games,
Yeah.
but when they play the cream of the crop, they're all showing no go. I still believe that. Their
Yeah.
schedule has not been tough at all,
Mm.
and they're reaping the benefits of it.
The one good thing you could say is that they haven't screwed it up. Because there's a
Well,
huge element,
that,
right? They could have.
huh?
They could have. Like if Luca came in a little out of shape, with an attitude and stuff, I think, and if they didn't have that young 19-year-old beast in the middle that's willing to just do anything Luca says whenever, and he's just more, more, more. Like there's a little thing there that I think hadn't happened. I think it could be a totally different start for Dallas, even with the easy schedule. So there's an element of like, okay, things are working to an extent for them. That young guy in the middle, I want to get his name here. Lively, I think Derek Lively. I'm gonna go with that.
Well, every team that has a championship contender has a guy like that.
I wouldn't call the Mavs a championship contender. Let's pull that back right away.
No, no, I'm just saying that every championship contender has a piece like that. For
Yeah,
example, the Warriors had Draymond Green, that glue guy that put everything together.
yeah.
Uh,
With
the,
this guy, I'm
the,
thinking he's more just like the young feed, like a Capella, where he's just Lob City. He's just your guy that can
well,
run.
I have my issues with Clint Capella, but that's another story.
This guy could have a
Uh,
ceiling too, right? He's so young and he's so just athletic. I think that's it.
Now this in-season tournament ends on December 9th, actually, so it wraps up rather quickly, considering they're only playing Fridays and Tuesday nights. As a matter of fact, there's not even a hoop game tonight, which we're not distracted doing this podcast, which may
Hmm.
or may not help us.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it helps
But
probably.
uh, but what are your initial thoughts after night one of the NBA Cup in general? Like,
It was like, whoa, when I saw the chords, it really did feel like, as silly as that is, they used bold colors and blanketed the chords. So I couldn't help but my brain just felt like it was not a regular season game. So it felt special in that sense, even though I knew it counted, which was nice because it's like, oh, at least this isn't a nothing game. This counts towards the regular season, but it feels like it's in Vegas or something. It feels like it's a tournament game. And that's, I guess, what they're going for. And so I saw the players have a little bit of maybe a element of playfulness that is like, oh, this is a little bit special because there's more eyes on us, there's more money to be made. So everybody's incentive is a little bit higher, and that makes for higher quality basketball in my books. Um, so if that works continuously and they're able to keep a semi energy, like it
can,
doesn't need
can
to
I
blow people's minds away. It's just a fun little thing. And I was like, yeah, it might
can
work
I
for that.
reserve judgment? Can I reserve judgment for one more night of tournament games? Because I'm not sold.
I think, yeah, we
I'm
need
not
to
as
see that.
high on it as I'm not as high on it yet as you are. I'm more of a night one was awesome. Like
Mm.
I'm not taking anything away from night one. Night one was awesome.
And do you think the novelty
Uh,
will wear off really quick?
I think so.
That's
It's like
fair.
the it's like the Royal Rumble match in the WWE. You wait for your entrant to come out and you get the big pop as a surprise. But
Mm,
if that guy was to be around, what makes him special is he was gone for 3 years.
mm,
And what makes him special is that surprise entrant into the match, right? So I
mm,
want to see if this is the big pop is going to last through night two, or if it was a, I just want to see what this is about,
mm.
and then the joy fades away, so to speak, for
Yeah.
the NBA Cup.
I heard one guy call it something like you don't need to expect it to change anything other than just slightly funner, increased viewership and dynamic. And I was like, all right, that's a pretty low bar for something that you're investing this much money in and making this big of a deal about.
Let's see, that's the beauty of the marketing because they hook you now, G.
Yeah, and I'm trying to respect it for what it actually is. It is good marketing to the extent that I thought it wasn't going to work, and I was like, objectively, this is stupid. People aren't that like gullible that they're just going to buy into this thing because you painted the courts. But they did, and so did I.
See, I'm happy because the ball was great in
Yeah.
night one. I just want to see what night two is before I crown this thing good to go.
Here's my last thing I'll say about it. I think it adds an element of pressure on the players to finish or to play the game, essentially. So if it was just a regular night season game, it's Miami versus Lakers. If that's a cup game, the percentages of a likelihood of a guy sitting go way down because there's way more eyes on, and people are starting to get upset now, right? So you can't push people too far or they'll snap as fans. So the pressure is now on for these cup games of having a little bit more incentive, right?
I'm so glad you picked Miami and LA. I'm so happy you picked Miami and LA, and here's why. That was a non-tournament game last night, okay? And it was 108, 107, and it was just as entertaining as anything I saw on NBA Cup Night 1.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you the truth, G, if it wasn't for that game last night, my opinion of the NBA Cup might have been a little bit different.
Interesting.
But because I watched that game last night and it was just as thrilling with the Lakers having a shot to win the game at the very end, that kind of changed my perspective on the NBA Cup in terms of not that it wasn't great ball because it was, as established before,
Hmm.
but can you do it for night two? Is the intensity gonna be the same? I
Mm.
want to see them do it again before I pass judgment on this tournament.
That's totally fair. I think that's a fair assessment too of a great game. And does it need to be painted with a special color to be, appreciated by the basketball fans? And I say no, but for the non-hardcores like us, I would say wouldn't have been cool if that game was a cup game. More eyes would have been on it, and more people would have been like, "Huh, that was a dope game. I might tune into another regular season game, whereas I might not have." Where me and you, we're watching everything all the time, no matter what. So the NBA Cup isn't really directed at us; it's more directed at
I
the
I,
fan, right?
I understand. What I'm saying is we got a great game beyond the tournament.
Yeah,
So, but you're
and wouldn't
right.
that share the love of basketball if only more eyes could have been on it? And I think with the cup, you're just going to get a few more eyes on your games, and if you have good games, that potentially brings in long-term fans from the casual to long-term. And I think you wouldn't have those casual fans pay attention to that Miami game last night um, because it's just a regular
Without it
season
being a
game.
cup game. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we watch no matter what. Casual fan, if that was a cup game, way more people would have watched and would have seen a great game, which helps the game as a whole, I think. So that's where I'm watching from. If it goes that way, I'll be happy. If it becomes just pure novelty and money and stuff, it'll be tough to sell in the long run, I think.
You are listening to the At the Buzzer, or watching, I guess, the At the Buzzer podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We do this about once a week, and we have Raptor rundowns for everybody as well.
Mm,
Uh, I got some new thumbnail. I found somebody to do some new thumbnails.
yeah. Oh,
I haven't shown them to G yet. He'll get to see the first one tomorrow with everybody else.
mhm.
I'm not giving him a preview on this one,
No, I
but
gotta have some surprise, right? Gotta have a little novelty.
gotta have a. I gotta. Let's just say I was inspired.
Mm,
I don't have an artistic flow, but I went on Fiverr and got some thumbnails done. I'm really impressed. There
yeah.
will be one on this podcast as well, so you'll see that in the morning when it drops.
Oof. And that'll be on the that'll be on the buzzer, hey. Nice. That'll be for the
Yeah,
thumb.
that I got one done for the podcast as well.
Beauty. Beauty.
So
I think
I think you're gonna like it.
Man,
But
I'm
uh,
curious.
but now that the NBA Cup conversation has passed, we can get to our funnest thing in the world that we love to talk about:
We got to
the
round up our
Raptors.
teams. Yeah, we got to round up our teams. The Raptors and the Lakers, right? If anybody's new to this podcast, well, we're both hardcore Raptors fans, and maybe fall on different levels of Lakers fandom. He's a long term fan, and I like to poke
Well,
where I can.
here's the thing for the new listeners to the podcast. Um, the Lakers were in existence long before the Raptors,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't turn off loyalty just like that.
No, and it
Especially
wouldn't.
when you look at an era where I came from, which was Magic and Worthy, and it was the Showtime Lakers, and that's where it comes from.
Yeah, you can't disrespect some of what the franchise stands for and what it's done. It's symbolic of basketball's greatest moments. I won't take that
Yeah,
away.
and I'm still loyal to. I may be a fool, G, but I'm still loyal to the crest on the front, not the name on the back.
Mm.
And that seems to be what's changed about fandom in the last few years.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with different demographics, you're going to get that. And hopefully the younger ones learn from the OGs that you stick with the team. And it's way funner to be a fan that way, you know?
It's way funner to ride the roller coaster, isn't it, G?
It is, unless you're a Chicago Bulls fan. Then I just feel sorry for you.
Actually, I remember a Jordan quote from The Last Dance where he's like, Jerry Cross wants to rebuild, and I'm like, what do you want to rebuild for? You got a championship team. And he's like, a rebuild doesn't guarantee nothing. The Cubs have been rebuilding for 45 years.
Mm,
So, granted, the Bulls aren't having any fun right now,
no,
but that's how it goes. And let's dive into the Raptors first,
man,
as
yes.
we're both sitting in this lovely country of Canada.
Mm, man, that was an interesting last game. It was against the Spurs, for those watching. Wembanyama's first game against the Raptors.
And he was fairly dominant,
Yeah, that
I gotta
first
be
quarter,
honest.
the Raptors made the Spurs look like one of the greatest teams of all time in the first quarter. The defense was so bad and so just not focused. And Wembanyama came out focused and ready to play, and it just tore them up for maybe the whole half.
I'd say two and a half quarters. They were pretty much the dominant team.
Yeah, yeah, just OG couldn't even get a shot off, without Victor just jumping out of nowhere. Um,
No, and
that
that's the thing. Like, was there anything? Because I know you watch the Raptor rundowns when I'm done with them. Was there anything I missed the other night in
no,
terms of my?
really, just the whole story. 2 words, right? Is Scotty Barnes. It's really respecting
Yeah,
that
but
dude.
I can't just hop on the Raptor rundown and go, Scotty Barnes, everybody, subscribe to the channel.
No, you in your rundown. I like the summary. I like the breakdown of how it all went. And man, if you want to summarize that in a quick second, tell people how it went. It's hard to put into words what the Raptors can be and what they end up being sometimes, where they struggle and when they're not. So if you want to just give a quick overview of the game, what you saw, what you
Well,
felt watching that.
it was the tale of two halves, and I
Mm,
stand by my rundown. The
mm.
Raptors should have lost that game by 35 points. And it started out really well. It wasn't too bad. It started out 10-7 midway through the first quarter. You're thinking, okay, we're stuck three. It's no big deal. And then it just gets worse and worse and worse. The Spurs had a 10-2 run. They went into halftime up 53 to 40 or 53 to 35 or whatever.
Oof.
And they were up by 22. And you're, as a Raptor fan, you're thinking, oh God, here we go again. Because the Raptors, and I stand by this, G, and you can argue with me all you want, the Raptors are a front running team. If the Raptors aren't in the lead, they're not interested in playing.
Until
And they somehow found a way to come back. But you know what that way was? And I'm gonna point to you, G, and you can say it.
Scotty
That
Barnes.
way was Scotty Barnes. And we kept saying, that could be that dude. Well, after the performance I saw on Sunday afternoon, it's no longer he could be that dude. He is that dude.
Ooh,
And
I got goosebumps. I got goosebumps as you said that.
and here's the thing. His stat line ain't gonna blow you away. There's nothing special about 28, 11, 3, and 3. But I will say this. It's not his numbers, it's his impact on the team that makes him that dude.
You know what one play was in particular that sums that up for me? Was when he was under the hoop. He's backing in Sohan, one on one. Looks like he might do a simple hook shot or something like that. And he turns around just off 2 feet and slams it on Sohan. Lets out a monkey scream, and the bench erupts for the Raptors. That point right there was my TSN turning point that I witnessed because it looked like Scotty just let everybody know, like, I am here. Like it
well,
was it.
well, first of all, TSN, if you're thinking about suing us for using your turning point reference, we don't have any money.
Yeah, come squeeze.
You see that piano? You see the piano in the background? Not real.
You see like a
Sofas.
repo man coming through. Yeah.
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 This is not my house. This is background. We don't have money.
Yeah. We'll
But
get,
anyways,
you know.
the and I can't help it. G, the fan came out in me. I'm usually Mr. like logical, but in that video I said it's more fun when the Raptors win. It's more fun when the Raptors are playing well.
I love that you said
And
that. Go against the logic and say that was fun.
that was fun. And it's funner for me. And the thing is, I still believe my logic, but if the Raptors go on a run and somehow get into the playoffs, I'm not gonna complain. You know
Mm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I still believe I still believe the right move for this team is to be bad. But if they go on a run and everybody's laughing at me going, all season you said they needed to be bad. I still stand by that. It's just more fun when the Raptors are playing well.
It's sort of the prove me wrong thing, right? It's like you guys are effing around, but if you can prove me wrong, I'm not going to be upset. I'm just calling it
Yeah,
as it is. But if you get your shit together, that is amazing. That's a plus for everybody.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I get that I sound like the biggest hater of the Raptors when I get on here and I talk realism because people don't want real, right? People want we're going to the Eastern Conference Finals. People want we got a shot at winning the title. And
Mhm.
that's not what I'm about.
Go for your Disney Plus elsewhere, right? You get a bit more real talk here, not so much golf energy. We're going to tell you how it is. And man,
And
during that
and, and you
you revealed it, right?
and you can tell that how I talk about my Lakers.
Mm.
I'm just as real about my Here's the thing.
Before we get
You
to the
can say
Lakers,
I'm too
I want to
harsh,
say one more on the
but
Raptors.
I'm hard on everybody.
Mm.
That's my point.
Hey, as you should be. If you started picking and choosing, I'd start having to ask more questions.
Yeah,
There's one last
but
Raptor
no,
point. Um, it was the resilience thing, right? Sometimes when a big comeback starts, it's a wave, and you just see it like the turn has happened, and it's 3-pointer, 3-pointer, 3-pointer. The other team's just scrambling, can't get their legs. But the Raptors didn't really have that. Every time they made a run, somebody on the Spurs hit a three that you've never heard of. And it was so deflating. Even when I'm watching that recording, I kept thinking to myself, man, how do you keep up the energy after you put so much in to come back and then they hit a three and push it back to 12, push it back to 15? So the most impressive thing I saw about the Raptors was holding it on to the 48 and not giving that up, and led by Scotty Barnes, of course. But man, to not give up when like just about any other team would have given up at that fourth quarter mark, you
Here,
know.
here's the thing, G, and I go back to this. I love the Raptors, but is this going to damage us long term, or do we just hop on the roller coaster and enjoy the ride?
There's
Like,
two
I'm torn here.
as
I'm
long.
torn, G. That's what I'm saying. I'm
Here,
torn.
here's my pitch to you then, as a Raptors fan to Raptors fan. We got a crown, and it was just stolen by Scotty Barnes. He just took it. So Siakam's sitting there on $38 million expiring contract, and he sees the writing on the wall. Scotty Barnes just arrived. The whole league just went, oh, you know,
It's
and
that
he,
guy,
yeah, he
right?
just
It's that guy.
it's unanimous. Like there's not anybody in the organization left that's like, oh, it could be him or Pascal. It's like, no, no, no. This is Scotty's team now. So Pascal, as good as he is it hurting him and the team by having him stick around? Because I think you can't have two alphas trying to be alpha at the same time. And one is getting paid $8 million, Scotty. One's getting paid 38 million. You don't think that's going to be a friction in the at the dinner table? Who's getting the check?
Well, somebody owes Scotty a steak dinner for that performance on Sunday afternoon, brother.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'd be honored to buy such a thing for him because that was such a pleasure to watch on all levels. Not the first half, but it set up the story, so it gives.
That's the thing. It set up a story, and the reason I that was such a short rundown was not because it wasn't a great game, because it was,
Mm,
but like you said, you could wrap up that story so quickly,
mm,
and you could see me trying to find different ways to describe that game,
mm,
and the words just wouldn't come. So I just reverted back to being a Raptor fan.
yeah.
And that's what came out was it's more fun when we win, guys. I don't
Mm,
want I don't want to be this cranky dude who's like, we got to build for the future. I
mm.
want to be the dude that went and said, goes and says, Scotty got 35, 10, and 8 last night, and we're looking legit. I'd rather be that guy.
I think that,
Let me be that guy. Give me a reason to be that guy.
and on Sunday he did, and I'm hoping that keeps up, right? And I've seen the headlines in the media, like lots of people noticed that night, like because of it being Victor, there was a lot more eyes on that game than normal for the Raptors, and looking at that box score alone, 30, 10, and 8 was Scotty's numbers, and it's like, dang. And with the impact, it just put everybody on notice. So as a Raptors fan, it is much funner to see this light shining and go, okay, what do we got? Can we flip Pascal for two role players and make things interesting? Just be a dangerous team and build for the future at the same time? I think so.
Rebuilt on the fly rarely ever work, G.
It's yeah. Can you find that in between space where you're making a go at it, but you haven't sacrificed your own game? And yeah, that's a line that not many franchises have come back from. And we'll see. We'll see. This is an interesting situation.
We'll probably get back to the Raptors in a bit, but I'm sure you want to talk about the Lakers because I saw the same report you did, and I know you've been itching to bring this up. So I hand the floor to my co-host for a topic that he's really wanted to cover today. He knows I saw the report too. So G, take it away and tell him what we're talking about here.
All right. So the main headline is sources say Lakers have filed a complaint directly with the NBA, have reached out to the NBA in regards to the lack of fouls called on LeBron James during the game against the Miami Heat last night. The NBA responded on Twitter and said, we've reviewed the tape of the last 2 minutes. We didn't miss anything. To which LeBron then responded on Twitter, an adult, LeBron James, tweeted back saying, it's not just about the last 2 minutes, it's about the whole game. Every single call can have an impact and da 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 da. Okay, so this is our frame of reference for the story is the Lakers are unhappy with the refs and they've made it super official and sent it to the papers around the world that they've been treated unfairly.
Can I say what I'm gonna say two things. I'm gonna let you go and then I want you to let me respond.
Okay.
Okay. One, like I told you in the pre-tape, and I'm gonna say it just like I said it in the pre-tape. That means I don't get to see LeBron's I didn't get the foul call dance, which I absolutely love when he's going like this and he's got his hands in the air. And somebody's gonna clip that and that's gonna become a short, I guarantee you,
Hey
because that
man,
looks funny.
if somebody really wanted to take it to LeBron, you make a statue of him doing the.
Number two, number two, and this goes back to, and G will attest to this. I am a diehard Laker fan. I'm with this team ride or die. But I gotta say this, man. You're embarrassing yourselves in the fan base. You are embarrassing yourself in the fan base. Look, do the refs miss stuff? Yes. Do they miss stuff at non crucial times? Absolutely. Do they miss stuff at crucial times? Yes. Sometimes the Lakers get calls, and you don't see me come on here and say, gee, um, we got a call tonight and we got bailed out. Everybody knows. Nobody cares. Shut
Mm,
up.
you hit the
Shut
word
up.
embarrassing. Like,
Listen, you are you are you are arguably, and I say arguably because there's one other franchise in the Celtics, but you are arguably the most storied franchise in league history, and you're crying to the league. You are embarrassing yourself. You are
mm,
embarrassing the fan base, and you are embar.
I love it. I
Am I
love
am I going too
it.
hard here, G?
No, no, no. I'll take it even one last step too of LeBron's legacy. There's not much he could do to put any taint on it. But it's shit like this, excuse my language, that if anything is going to be something that just paints a tiny little dot of like, ugh, he was so entitled by, this is the storyline that you could go. He was so entitled that by his last year, he was sending out media messages to the entire world that he was being like, that's
It's
not how you want to go out. I don't care who you are. Do you have any other player in the league doing that? Do you have any other coach? Do you think Mike Malone would have let his franchise put out that statement? Mike Malone would have quit before that. Jokic would have quit. Like, nobody would allow that to happen. And he's encouraging it.
here's the thing. The Lakers, you're above this. As
Yeah.
a franchise, you're above this. This is ridiculous.
And they've always gotten
And
the benefit of the doubt. It's not like they're the Raptors or some small little team that's like, arguably, yeah, you're shit on because you're small. Lakers are big. They're not bullied. They've been given the
we're the
benefit.
Lions.
Yeah, like you're the Cowboys. Like people love to beat you because you're given the benefit of the doubt sometimes because of star
And we take
players.
and we take pride in that. The
Mm-hmm.
fact that you want to come in our house and beat us, we take pride in that as Laker fans. We
Yeah,
want you to come into our house with an attitude of we want to win. Because when we win, then that makes it sweeter for us,
yeah, because you
right?
just proved the whole world wrong, right? Like you just had a bunch of people
That's
want you to lose.
this is embarrassing.
You know,
That's the word of the day. This is embarrassing.
and it just shows where the direction is headed. If it's heading in that direction, it's like, oh boy, yeah, I don't know
Re,
how I feel.
and whether we finish first in the West or 15th, I'm gonna ride with this team. But you embarrassed us today.
Yeah,
You
I don't know how
embarrassed
you
us today.
like here's my last one. There's a reason that the Globetrotters, the Harlem Globetrotters, storied franchise and stuff of great entertainment basketball. There's a reason that wasn't exactly the business to end all businesses because it's not so fun when the leader of the big team, the Harlem Globetrotters, doesn't have a team defending them. Like they're not allowed to defend them hard. So they're able to do the tricks and stuff. And essentially that sounds like what LeBron is asking for. Like I'm the Harlem Globetrotters. I'm supposed to be able to do my tricks unimpeded. You're not helping me here. It's
Yeah,
sort of that
but
edge.
but then you create a league of James Hardens who all do the same thing.
And yeah, it's not good basketball. Like Globetrotters is boring after you've seen it once. That's why it didn't last. The NBA lasts because it's good competition. LeBron complaining about the level of competition, so that he could get more ref calls his way, is like a Globetrotters approach. It's like, you want the game to be easier for you? Like, what is
Well,
that?
as the great Tom Hanks once said in A League of Their Own, if the game was easy, everybody could do it. Being
Yeah,
hard is what makes it great.
yeah, facing adversity and overcoming it, not putting out a statement that we've been treated unfairly. Like, that's the most high schoolish type of thing that
That's something Memphis does.
yeah,
That's something New Orleans does.
yeah, teams that are
Okay.
struggling to get anything, just
That's something the Magic do. The Lakers are better than this.
and
This
if
is
you're trying to be the GOAT, like, if you wanna carry your name in public as one of the greatest athletes of all time, Michael Jordan didn't sit around on his phone complaining to refs. He just didn't. Like, whatever you wanna call the phone, the tech at the time. He
no
didn't
and
spend
and
time worrying about that.
and that's the thing that the new school guys don't understand.
They
It
think it's
was
part of the
about
game.
taking care of business. It was about taking care of your business.
Mm,
And it wasn't about I didn't get this, I didn't get that. It wasn't anything about that's what I miss about old school NBA basketball. It was never about I didn't get the call. It was sure did people complain? Absolutely. But you look at the and this is gonna make me sound like I get off my lawn old man. But you look at those Bulls teams in the 80s and early 90s. They were thrown around, they were beat up. Larry Bird had fisticuffs with many of his adversaries because he was protecting his Celtic teammates.
mm,
And it was just, we're not going to complain that we didn't get the call. And Jordan hit the gym. Jordan hit the gym.
mm.
And people will say, well, LeBron's a specimen and you don't understand. It's a different world. You know what? There's a thing called mental toughness. And the more that I watch LeBron James, he might be the second greatest player in the league to ever play the game. Because to me, that's Michael Jordan. And if you want to come at me in the comments, go ahead.
People will
But
be able
what
to
I
point
will
to
say,
this, though.
huh?
People will be able to point to this stuff when they're arguing against LeBron. Be like, well, at least Michael
Uh,
didn't have to send out tweets complaining.
and that's the whole thing. Like this is LeBron, the Lakers. Wow.
I
Do
just
you
don't know.
see the disappointment and the anguish on my face right now?
Yeah, because it cuts to the heart of what it means to be a fan of your Lakers, like an identity thing, right? Your symbol. It's like when somebody's messing with the symbol of why you like something and they're doing the opposite, it's sort of like, yeah, you feel personally sort of hit by it because it's a lack of respect almost for the story of the franchise. You know, to just put
Like
your
Shaq and Kobe got hammered all the time.
man. If you go back to the finals last year, Jamal Murray was hit more than anybody I've seen physically. Like, he was thrown around a lot, and he just loved it. He was just more, more. He went to MMA school for the summer. Like, the dude faced contact and leaned in rather than like, I better get some refs that could really help me protect myself under there. No, he went to the Volk school of hard knocks, the little bald dude from the MMA, and started fighting him. You know, like, that's my dude. That's my fan. Like, I like that. And I'm sure LeBron's been that for a lot of his career. So it's such a shame to see him take this
but
twist.
he hasn't. But LeBron really hasn't though, and I know people are gonna go
Giving him
ballistic in
some
the
grace
comment
on this.
section
Yeah.
by me saying that. They're gonna be ballistic in the comment section.
Yes.
Thankfully, we only get about 20 views on this thing. But what I mean is this. LeBron is the type of guy who, when he played for the Heat, and people are gonna hate that I bring this up, he took the 10-day vacation. Remember this? In the middle of the season, his team was playing, and he's like, "I need a vacation," and he took 10 days off in the middle of the season. And people are like, "That's just what people do now," and I'm like, "Really?
Mm,
This is what passes for an NBA athlete now? You can just take 10 days off whenever you feel like it."
man, and there's a lot of things that he's done that have set a new precedent, like picking your own team, really having the influence to be able to actually do that. And player empowerment's one thing, and then being, kind of a power broker is another. Like, he became a power broker and was able to do things that were pretty powerful because of his leadership and reputation that guys wanted to win with him.
But
When he
see,
went to
people are
Miami,
starting to see through that now, because there was also a report earlier this week
yeah,
that players are leaving Clutch Sports and Rich Paul because of LeBron's influence.
mhm.
They don't want to tolerate him anymore.
Do you
And what
think
do we always say, G? If your talent supersedes your problems, then you're okay. But LeBron is getting to the point where his talent and his problems are meeting, and nobody wants to put up with it anymore.
that's facts? That's real talk right there, man. That's real talk. Like and subscribe, folks, because that's some real talk on it.
And
LeBron's
that
true,
and
you know.
that's me talking about a Laker.
Yeah, and maybe you won't want to claim him as a Laker when this is all said and done because it's going to be debatable whether he can claim himself as a Laker. One
He
championship
can't.
does not equate jersey retirement in my books. And do you hear about the Miami Heat comments where he goes, "I would have been a greatest of all time if it was for the Miami Heat or not." It was sort of that comment like, "Sure, it was great, but I'm the
See,
best." And it's like, dude, nah.
here's the thing, G. And this is another real thing I'm gonna say. And the LeBron haters are gonna, or the LeBron squad's gonna come after me. LeBron, and I'm speaking directly to you if you somehow come across this tiny podcast. I'm speaking directly to you. If you're the greatest of all time, you're not the one that says it. Other people say it on your behalf. You know what makes Mike great? He said, "I didn't get to play Jerry West. I didn't get to play Elgin Baylor. I didn't get to play, you know, all these other greats, so I can't call myself the greatest of all time." We do it for him because we believe it.
Mhm.
We believe it. And LeBron, are you trying to convince us, or are you trying to convince yourself? Think about that for a moment and
Mm.
then get back to me. I'm not hard to find. And if you want to come on the At the Buzzer podcast and defend yourself, LeBron, we're always happy to have you, brother. But
Yo.
that's my opinion. You
Mm.
can keep that receipt and take it to the bank. When you're the greatest of all time, you don't have to say it, others will say it for you.
Man, yep, and I really do think there's an edge of his new sort of attitude that's coming out here, especially with the social media stuff, that is gonna mess with his legacy if he's not careful. Of course, he's gonna have the diehards. Of course, he's gonna have the Lakers fandom and stuff. But there's an element of, like, the hardcores and the hoop heads and stuff that are probably watching this and thinking the same thing, like, "Boy, none of our favorite players of the greatest of all time were this entitled." Maybe Tom Brady has a similar thing where he would like just be relentless with
You know who gets left out of the conversation? Why don't we talk about Larry Bird more often?
good question. Good question. I don't know. I think he had a legitimate defense. Like he
That
has
dude was cold as ice.
didn't he win like defensive player of the year one year or something too? So you couldn't say he's just offensive, right?
Yeah. But I'm just saying, man,
But none of the
it's one of
goats
those things.
act like this.
Wha-
Nobody just goes around talking like this. Like MJ, even in his worst. Uh, I'm talking Washington Wizards, end of his career, nothing left in the tank. He wasn't demanding that the refs cradle and cuddle him in his last days. He's like, "I'll fight to the death." And everybody's like, "Yeah, chill, dude, chill." And he just kept going until he couldn't. I have way more respect for that than somebody that's like, I'm getting older, slowing down, and the game's moving past me, so I'm going to make a cry about it. Like, that's not cool. It's just like the definition of uncool. you know?
That's what. But like I said, if you really are amongst the greatest of all time, we'll make the case for you. You
Yeah.
don't get to do it yourself.
And last thing I almost want to say on the Lakers is just the soft factor. You guys didn't have a great identity for toughness with AD and his reputation, whether it's justified or not.
It's
Austin Reeves,
probably not. I will say it's probably not, but whether it's justified or not, that's his reputation.
yeah, yeah. And
Because
then if you have
you
LeBron,
can't help injuries, right? You can't help injuries, but at the same time, that's your reputation, and
it's
that's
like
what it
Kawhi
is.
to me. It's like, who knows what's behind the closed doors for AD and Kawhi? I don't know, but your reputation is cemented. Whether it's true or not.
Well, that's my argument with Kawhi. It's always been my argument with Kawhi. It's not that I don't like Kawhi because I think Kawhi is a phenomenal guy. But if you're not available to me 75% of the time, I'm gonna have an issue.
Hey, that brings us right into the Clipper show, which was a top topic of the NBA this week. Was Harden's debut with the Los Angeles Clippers, spoiled by can't even remember the team. Who was that? Um,
Who was? Hold on, I will look it up on my phone real quick here, G.
yeah, so I
So
didn't
keep
catch the whole
talking.
game. I was able to watch just the highlights of it, and it was interesting to see him after the game and sort of talk about like, oh, how'd you feel? And he's like, well, I didn't have any chance to go over any plays or any of this or that, so I was just winging it, just playing essentially pickup ball. And that's a fair comment until you think about the last 5 months and you go, wait a second. There's been one team on his radar and one team willing to negotiate for James Harden, and that's been the Clippers. He hasn't been reading the Philadelphia 76ers playbook and studying that. So my question to James Harden and the general basketball public would be, what the hell you been up to? You could have been studying the Clippers' forms and strategies and plays and all.
111.97 the Knicks.
Ah, okay, yeah, good solid team of the Knicks doing the opposite of what the Clippers do. Clippers buy themselves
I
everything.
told you this was going to be a problem.
Uh, In his first game, it's just those comments that I'm curious about. What's your thoughts on? Well, I just had to play pickup because I just showed up. Like I didn't have a chance to study the schemes and this and that. It's like, what have you been up to for 5 months? Because this ain't a surprise. You coming here? What have you been up to?
James, James. The funny thing about it is, have you ever seen the movie Hustle and Flow with
Oof,
Terrence Howard?
long, long time ago. Going back to belly
Well,
days.
there's a line and there's a discussion in that movie between Terrence Howard and Anthony Anderson,
Mm,
and it goes, there's people that talk and there's people that walk, and the people that talk try to convince the people that walk to do things for them, but the
mm.
people that walk don't ask for anything because they're too busy walking, getting stuff done. And
Hear that,
James
buddy?
Harden does a lot of talking.
You
You
know,
know, he
it's all these
wasn't
ovaries, man.
happy.
They need to get the
He
heck out
wasn't
of here.
happy in Oklahoma. He wasn't happy in Oklahoma because he felt disrespected.
Mm,
Okay, I'll give you a pass on that one, James. You were young, you were whatever. It is what it is. So he
mm.
goes to Houston and he balls out. Let's be real, he balled out.
Scoring
And
MVPs, top of the league.
and then and then he says, "Well, I'm not happy in Houston. Get me out of here. Get me to Brooklyn." Okay, James, you played your superstar card. You're 0 for 2, but that's what it is. Okay, you're in Brooklyn. You've got KD and Kyrie, and you want out after a year and a half, right?
It's just true. There's too much reality working against them.
No, no, but look, then he goes to Philly, and he's got Joel Embiid, and he's got Daryl Morey, the only guy in the league who still believes in him.
Mm.
He couldn't get it done,
Second
and
last
then
guy.
he comes out And then he comes out and is like, Daryl Morey's a liar. I'll never play for Daryl Morey again. He's the only guy that believes in you.
Yeah.
He's the only one, James.
Well,
If
Steve
there's
Ballmer,
another,
you know.
well, no, I will. I chalk that up to the Clippers are trying to be the Lakers. The Clippers
And
want the stars to sell tickets to their games. It has nothing to do with believing James Harden.
I think it's
But then
actually
he goes.
combined with Paul George being like, I don't want to play 82, so get another guy.
So I'm saying eventually, James, you have to be the problem because you've done this 5 different times now. Eventually, you have to be the problem.
Yeah, and the opportunity to change that narrative comes with every new team you go to. The world gives you a new chance, and he does the same thing. So I was curious, is he going to come out and just be a bit more humble? Like, has he just even an
No,
inch, not even an
no.
inch, right? Because he comes in and is like, ah, I tried my best. What do you want? It's like, dude, how about prepare?
Money doesn't or adversity doesn't build character, it reveals it, is how the old saying goes.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. That
The
is a
old saying goes, adversity doesn't build character, it reveals it.
man, that is a quote from the
And
book. That is a
and every time James Harden is faced with a little adversity, he runs away. And what did I tell you when this trade went down? I said this is going to be the most Clipper thing that the Clippers do, and it's going to backfire on them.
yeah, I've had time to sit on it and I realized that once I watched that game, that was all I really needed. I just needed a taste. I was like, all right, I'll be optimistic. I'll keep my mind open. Hey, they're old. They have to have incentive to win now. You can't teach an old dog new tricks.
No, you can't.
And he
See,
is
and
an old dog.
that's what I tell. That's why I told you. And if you go back to the preseason, you can go back to the At the Buzzer podcast in the preseason. I said the Lakers could be a dumpster fire, and I'm looking more right on that every day.
I saw AD went down and had a little injury thing. So it's like, yeah, they're walking the thinnest rope to being at the bottom and having to work their way into a play-in again and try to make a run. But how much gas?
But I say that to establish the fact that I said when the moment this trade went down, the moment G texted me and I woke up and I saw that text and I text G back, I said this is the most Clipper thing that the Clippers could ever do.
True.
And G
True.
being the voice of reason was always let's give it a shot, man. Let's see what happens. Well, you've gotten a taste of James Harden in Clipperland. Uh,
And it wasn't
was
even
that
just
enough food for you?
yeah, and I wouldn't even say it was his play that disrupted my sort of hope for that. It was the interview of like it's sort of that like, how could I have done any better? It's like yeah, it just is an attitude to me that if I were on his team, I'd be like, man, I study plays every night. I watch tape every night. I'm in the gym every morning, working on our schemes, working on my role. And this dude has 5 months to think about how he would fit with us. And he comes in and tells us, yeah, let's play pickup because I don't know a single one of your plays. I don't know a single defensive scheme. It's going to take me some time to get used to it. To me, that's just sort of like, oh man, that's so unprofessional. That's just all I needed to hear.
And that's not true either. And
Mm,
for people who are gonna come, I'm gonna make a lot of basketball enemies tonight, G.
let's say
But
that's
uh,
uh,
but I'm gonna throw this out there. That's not true either. And
what's
you
that?
want evidence to back it up? You want evidence to back it up? I'll give you evidence. How long has Ty Lue been the coach of the Los Angeles Clippers?
Mm, yeah,
Never mind how long has George. Never mind how long has James Harden wanting to go there. Just tell me how long has Ty Lue been the coach of the Los Angeles Clippers?
5 years,
Huh?
5 years or something, right?
So it's been 5 years, and you don't know what the Clippers run. It's been 5 years under the same guy, and you don't know what the Clippers run.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just the thing. It's like, man, the disrespect to the game, the disrespect to the teammates, the disrespect to work ethic in general. It's just always this with this guy, and he's
See
so
that
talented
that's
and he can just do 20 and
that's
10.
where my philosophy kind of beats yours.
Mm.
Is I'm a what has history shown me kind of guy.
And it is odds wise going to have probably the edge always, and the perspective that I take will always have the edge of a little bit of like a fun, optimistic side of like if it does work out, you're going to be extra blown away, excited because you held out that hope. But honestly, you're going to be disappointed more times than not. Like if we're going to
Because
evaluate it, yeah.
because even when the Lakers got Russell Westbrook and
Mm,
everybody was like, "Oh, Lakers are going to the ship," I was the only guy that said we're missing the playoffs.
mm,
Because the one thing I've learned over my 30, well, I'm 39, so let's call it 34 years of watching 30, 33 years of watching basketball.
mm.
There's only one ball,
That's facts,
and
right?
it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It really doesn't, and it only is going to work when they sit out half the season. They're going to just like be that team that rotates them through, and it boggles the
And,
mind.
and and people will say that, well, it worked in Miami. No, Dwayne Wade said, "LeBron, this is your show. I'm just a sidekick now." Wade gave LeBron the floor to make the moves that he needed to make. There was no ego struggle in Miami. That's why it worked. But
Mm,
there will always be an ego struggle between Kawhi, PG, James Harden.
yeah, and it wouldn't have been until like I think PG's always fine playing second fiddle. He gets it. But those other two, oh, buddy, as much as they probably said it, looked him in the eye and said, Kawhi, yeah, you number one. Russ and James just aren't those dudes. Like they're always going to think they're number one, and it kind of reveals itself in times of adversity. So I really love that theme, actually, that adversity theme when we're looking at some of these teams and conversations, because I think it threads through them all here, and especially into the next team that I wanted to bring up. Um, you know what? Pause on that. I was going to shout out to the Knicks for kicking the Clippers' ass last night and showing them how basketball can be played with no superstars, no anything special. It's just lunch bucket. A couple guys who've known each other since college days at Villanova, where they cut their teeth being hard-nosed dudes. Hart, Brunson, and can't think of the third guy right now. Uh,
Randall was it Julius Randall?
no, it was another role player.
R.J. Barrett.
No, he was Duke. He's in the starting lineup. I
Oh,
can't.
I should know his name then if he's a Duke Blue Devil.
No, no, sorry, he was a
By the way,
Villanova.
college. By the way, college ball started last night in Paris.
Okay, we're gonna have to talk
So,
about that in a second too. But
so
the
the
Knicks,
college season is underway.
they show what some basketball can be played like, and you don't need your James, and you don't need an 8 superstar team to be able to have a chance. And now the Knicks haven't won a championship with this model yet. I'll give you that, but it was nice to see grimy bucket defense oriented teams ruin James Harden's little parade. Uh, so shout out to the
I knew
Knicks.
this was, but back to your point. Yeah.
Adversity. I want to look to the next example being the Minnesota Timberwolves. Last night,
Oh, why do we have to keep talking about the Timberwolves? Okay, go ahead.
key point here, and I think it almost threads perfectly into what we're talking about. Carl Anthony Towns. I know that there's some ups and downs in life, and we get moody. We all express ourselves differently. We all deal with stress differently. But it's embarrassing. It's so embarrassing to see that on national TV and to see his teammates have to put up with that shit. For those that didn't catch the game last night, it was a close game between Minnesota and can't remember who. My focus was pretty much on Minnesota. Oh, sorry, Boston. It was because they took out the Nuggets and now they're playing against Boston. So I thought it was really interesting. They're leading most of the game. Anthony Edwards is kind of the top dog there. He's leading the way. I catch the end bits and Cat fouls out. 2 plays before that, he did like, 2 massive mistakes, and he's flailing his arms. He's screaming. He goes over to McDaniels, who did nothing, like to be accused of this, and he just like
Yeah,
barks at him and screams at him. He gets his next foul. He fouls out. He runs over to the bench, just screaming, head up, jersey over his head, all this shit. Okay, man, we have a game to win. And your little act is distracting everybody and it's toxic. And guess who stepped up? Anthony Edwards and McDaniels. They just crushed the favorite to win the NBA Finals while you were on the bench crying like a man baby. Like, if I were Minnesota, I'd be trading him for 1 first rounder and I'd be like,
just be
perfect.
done with it.
Perfect. Thank you. Addition by subtraction. Anthony Edwards is that dude of the week for the Western Conference. He showed up last night and had a big smile on that reminded me of the greats. It was like, ooh, he's arrived in a new way. He's been building, and he is the best defense.
That dude of the week, I like that concept. We're not sponsored yet because this is the first edition of that dude of the week.
Yo,
That are we going by conference or are we just getting gonna pick one guy?
I'm going to do conference picks each week, I think, and it's going to be based on we can make up our reasons, but it's coming down to that word, and to me that
All
means
right,
defense and offense, right? You're doing both. So Scotty Barnes on
my
the Anthony Edwards.
my dude of the week out west. It goes to the rookie. I got to watch him play on Sunday. He really impressed me in a losing effort. My new pick for rookie of the year actually
Ooh,
is Victor Wembanyama. He gets my Western Conference that dude of the week.
nice.
Not just for his 20 points and rebounds or whatever, but the 5 blocks just tells me he's out to make a statement. And the Spurs, despite their record, they're going to be fun to watch. And I tell you, I told you this last week. If the Spurs can somehow find a way in, if they can find a way in, Pop's got to win Coach of the Year.
I
So
think
my
so.
Western Conference Dude of the Week goes to Victor Wembanyama.
Oh, shout out, shout out. He really has stepped up and like faced the pressure. We're talking about adversity as a theme. Let's say pressure can be adversity, and he faced so much pressure of the entire world wanting him to kind of underwhelm or fail in some way, shape, or form. And the dude's shown up and exceeded expectations with grace and class. Um, really impressive to see that happen for such a young dude. Not many people carry themselves that way, let alone somebody that has this much attention and power and money and all these things, like the way that he's able to balance those with being a competitive basketball player and a good teammate by the looks of things is really
Mm-hmm.
encouraging for the game. So yeah, nice pick.
And your Eastern Conference Dude of the Week, you said is Scotty Barnes for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
You want to cut? I'm gonna give you the floor to gush over Scotty for a couple minutes, because my Eastern Conference pick of the week is gonna shock some people, I think.
Ooh.
And go ahead.
Last words on Scotty Barnes is the shot, the confidence. That was the big difference. Is he finally stopped playing to like, well, should I just take over as me? Like, is this my team? It's like there was a switch that went off that was like, I don't even care. If the shot's open, I'm just going to take it. And his smooth rhythm shots and stuff, where a lot of people are like, is that real? Is that going to hold up in a few games? Like, that's too good. Let's say it even holds up a fraction of that. He's going to be one of the baddest dudes in the league in short time. It's really nice to see that switch flip for him. That's like, no, I'm the dude.
My Eastern Conference Player of the Week
Yo,
And this is a shout out to a team that doesn't get much love on any of their podcasts. Is Paulo Banquero.
Whoa,
He's
solid.
putting up the he's putting up the numbers on a bad team in
Mm,
losing and winning efforts. They went and they handled the Lakers this week. He
yeah,
had another 22-point game last night. Paulo Banquero and Victor Wembanyama. There's your Eastern and Western Conference. That dude of the week from Mo Money. Scotty Barnes is your East pick. Who did you have out West?
I had Anthony Edwards.
Anthony Edwards. So those are our dudes of the week.
Oh,
Stay tuned. This is going to be a fun segment
yeah, oh,
that we have just created here at the Buzzer podcast.
mm,
And gee, that was a ton of fun. But
yeah,
there's another team I want to talk about,
yeah.
and that
Please,
is the Orlando Magic,
nice one, nice one.
who
Curious
who
thoughts.
have been making noise throughout the NBA. And if you haven't heard, you're not paying attention because this Orlando team is sneaky good. They're competitive every night. Bankero's not in a mood to lose on purpose as the Magic have been doing. You've seen the Magic play well. You've seen what their season's been. What are your early thoughts on the Magic to start this 23-24 season?
Man, so well put on what they're doing, but sneaky good and being a competitive team every night. What I've seen is the nice balanced roster of okay, a little guard heavy with some of the smaller dudes. Up they got 4 point guards or something, but they're all good, and they're all thriving off that competition. I think of vying for the next contract and spot, but they're playing together. Like Jalen Suggs, he kind of has been up and down,
That
and
that dude is a beast.
he is so competitive and he tries like that's a dude of the year type of thing where he works and he works and he works, and that's the energy I'm picking up on from the Magic is like you got some like pretty mean hardworking dudes that are young,
And if you,
talented.
and I guarantee you, if you sit down and watch a Magic game this year,
Mm,
you're gonna have some fun
yeah, yeah, those
with
twins, right? Like the talent of those European twins. Is it Wagner?
yeah, I
Super
think.
cool to see that. And
But I just wanted to touch on the Magic because they get so little love on so many podcasts.
I got another one for the Magic is if they're going to make a run in the wide open East, right? There's, in my mind, Boston, Philly, and then it's open for the rankings of where goes next. So I think in the next chunk is going to be Milwaukee, Cleveland, Knicks, Atlanta, Raps.
They're all kind of bunched together.
Yeah, and now you can add the Magic to that, I think, and that is a change. That's a huge change
That's
that
a
they can
nice
be.
change. That's a welcome change.
Yeah, and so if you're the Magic, let me ask you this: are you looking to upgrade because you've got assets, you've got draft picks, you could upgrade and tweak your roster if you want to make a go at this East, seeing that it's pretty wide open, and that Philadelphia, if Embiid is injured, it's over.
If there was any year to do it, it would be this year for the Magic.
Man, because
If there
golf
was any
energy
year to
last
do
night
it,
proves my point. Jalen Brown. um, just all to say that the East is wide open. Uh, yeah, this is the year, man.
this is the year to go for it if you're the Magic because you're fun, you're entertaining, you're in every game. You might as well take a swing at defenses because you don't get too many of them.
Mm. So do you tweak or add, or do you stick with your guns of like, this is a solid chemistry thing? I don't want to throw off the chemistry because those are always the untangibles, but could throw off your whole
No,
thing.
no, I, I'm not worried about that
Mm,
because if you have a group of guys like that, the chemistry is going to be there.
mm,
Now you go big fish hunting.
mm. You want
So
Pascal? I'll give him to you
that's
first.
where I was going. No,
I'll take
no, that's
Suggs.
where I was going because you've got Pascal on an expiring contract. But I wouldn't be picking up a phone about Pascal. I don't know where I know you just want to get rid of Pascal. I'm calling about OG. If I can imagine being able to add OG Ananobi to this Magic squad for a couple of picks.
I feel like OG's the turning point on the Raptors. Like if they send OG, it's rebuild time. If they keep him, they're going to try to win around Scotty while rebuilding and keeping OG as the OG, as this killer two-way guy that's never going to make a peep of negativity towards anything. Like he's just going to be solid. So I think he would be easiest to move if the Raptors were looking for value added, right? Looking for a good, powerful trade. Is you got to pick a lane. You can't win both ways. So you got to give the Magic your guy who's going to be the hardest working, easiest to move guy. It's like the Bulls. They're going to have a hard time getting rid of DeRozan and Levine. But Caruso, there's a lineup of people
Everybody
you can call.
and
Like
and
it's a,
here and here's what the hoop heads understand that the casuals don't.
mm,
There's not too many Alex Carusos in the league.
there's not too many OGs, right? So these guys are actually the top of the free agent pool compared to Levine, DeRozan, Pascal, because they come with a 40 million plus price tag and an ego that's like, oof.
I'm not selfish.
Yeah,
But
just that again. All I needed to hear is like, I got love you, man, but you can't.
it's like I said, if you really believe that, you wouldn't have to say it.
Yeah, and your owner and whatever his title is, co-chair Masai wouldn't spend a whole press conference calling your team selfish. If there was any element of your star player that was like not
I
selfish,
still
you would have mentioned that.
I still say Masai is the smartest executive in the NBA because he's set it up in a way that he gets all the credit if the Raptors do well, and he gets none of the blame if the Raptors do poorly.
He's
He's the
walking away.
LeBron James of executives
Ooh, that might be a comparison I can't argue. Yeah, it's winning in a weird way, right? It's like you're winning, but are you winning? It's
because if the Raptors do good,
it's
right,
all
it's all Masai.
yeah,
And if the Raptors play poorly,
it's
which
all
I fully expect them to do, it's Bobby Webster's fault, right? Bobby Webster's the GM. Don't
or
look at me.
Siakam or this guy or Nurse or the line of
Yeah.
blame goes to everybody
So
but
he's Teflon. So I really look at Masai as the LeBron James of executives because he set it up in such a way
mm,
that he gets all the credit but none of the blame. I don't know how he does that.
huh. You must have taken some things from the RCMP. I don't know, man. There's that makes me nervous as a Raptors fan. Actually, that comparison because it does speak to a way of winning that's not the way that we understand winning as fans, which is investing in your team and winning championships. His might be a little bit different definition of winning, and it's not for me to say which is right or wrong. It's just as a fan, I want championships and have fun while watching my team play. Um, he seems like he's playing some bigger games sometimes.
See, and the one thing I didn't notice in your little ramble there was you didn't say, Mo, you're wrong. I
Mm,
didn't hear that come out of your mouth.
no, because it factually it just adds up, doesn't it? It just is true. Like you can't argue that. Ask anybody. Hey, if the Raptors win this year, who's going to get the top like congratulations? Unless somebody scored 50 points a game, it's going to be Masai, right? And if the Raptors go 0 in the next 30, if they drop 30, he's going to get some questions, but it's all going to be below. Like the majority of the blame will be on the tree branches, never on the freaking star on the
Never
top.
the top of the tree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think it's just true. Whether that was by design or not is maybe another interesting question around it. Like, is this a consequence of Toronto being the way Toronto is as a city, or is this Masai's management style and personality? Who knows? Maybe it's a combo of both. But either way, I'm trading Siakam.
I know because every podcast you're working on this trade.
And you know what? You nailed it, though. He's not going to be easy to move. OG, though, he's the guy that you could move.
That's what I mean though. And it would be better for me if the Raptors made the move to try and win
Hmm.
in terms of the channel is concerned.
Yeah, and it
But
makes
it's better for the
right?
Raptors if they go the other way and move OG. That's the thing.
You know what? I would ask Scotty Barnes. If I was, Bobby Webster, I would go, "Hey, you're the face now. What do you want beside you as we do this? Do you want a full new suite of young guys that you can kind of direct us on what type of player you're looking for? Or do you want a couple vets by your side and what kinds and why?" Because I feel like Scotty might want an OG around type of thing because of the personality and workhorse thing. And if I'm Toronto, I want to keep OG as that mentor, really balanced professional around Scotty so he doesn't have to become fully adult leader all on his own right away. You've got continuity then by keeping OG. You've got a bit of the championship culture if you keep OG. It's just really unrealistic to think you could keep Pascal, OG, and Trent and Scotty in 2 years. Right?
Well, that's the thing. Scotty's due for a raise already.
I
Scotty's due
was
for a
thinking
raise.
about that after that game. I was like, $8 million. Like, oh, he needs to renegotiate now, but I guess he can't until the new contract season starts.
Any other teams that you're keeping an eye on in the NBA, in the association so far this year?
Couple boring but interesting ones I want to point out for the other hoop heads that may still be listening. Tell me about Phoenix Suns and Milwaukee Bucks, and tell me that I think I called it Fugazi. It's a little bit of that, is it not? Is it not revealing itself to be kind of fake on the inside? Like there's missing pieces on the inside?
Well, well, here's the thing, and I'm going to use us as an example,
Mm,
right? Okay, so when we started this podcast, it was, or even before we started this podcast, it was, I can't find anybody that wants to sit in the chair you're sitting in
mm,
right now. And you were like, I'd love to do it. I'm in. I'm ready to go. I said, okay, that's great. We have the premise, but I don't have the equipment. And
mm,
you were very patient with me. I was like, I just got the mic and the camera. I don't have the computer yet. I'm leaving town. I'll get the computer. And you were like, cool. Whenever we're ready, I'm in. But I
yeah.
kept you informed the rest of the way as
Mm,
to what was going on so that you knew I was in on this podcast. And,
mm,
you start to question some things about who's in and who's out. And that's one of the things that I'm learning about this year in the association is the reason this podcast does so well in my mind is because I know I can count on you. You're in with me. And
mm,
I think some of the teams that we've been referring to, we have questions as to who's really in and who's really in it for themselves.
mm. Interesting. Interesting. So with this framing of it, and those two teams that I brought up of Phoenix and Milwaukee, who among those players and coaches and ownership and stuff do you feel like might fall on one side of the category and the other?
I think Milwaukee is a lot like Dallas,
Mm,
but they're a better version of Dallas. They've
mm,
got more tools. So
okay.
they're trying to win. The Milwaukee is trying to win, but it is okay for them just to look good in the eyes of the fans because they're a small market team.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. With two superstars, though, I think you have a different set of circumstances where it's like, bro, you can't be average. You have two superstars. Like New York Knicks
Don't
have,
sleep on Middleton. Don't sleep on Middleton.
yeah, and he's an all-star. So you got two
Uh,
superstars and an all-star. New York Knicks. I don't know if Brunson was even an all-star last year. You
but
know what I
but
mean?
you
The
have to
expectations are a bit higher because of
you have to everybody forgets to do this in a trade. Everybody forgets to do this, including myself, including G. We're not special. We do this too. So
mm,
I'm not picking on anybody in particular. But when the Bucks went and got Damian Lillard, they gave up Drew Holiday. Don't sleep on that piece going back the other way
I thought that was also
because
influential. Yeah,
the defense in Milwaukee is going to suffer.
it
And
went.
and well, I've lost a lot of love for Dame, but I still love Dame. But don't sleep on them losing Drew Holiday. That was a
And
big piece going back the other way.
you know what? Shout out to Mike Budenholzer too, who got canned for coaching too well. Um, you know, injuries and stuff like similar thing. This guy was a defensive-minded coach. So you lose him and you lose Drew Holiday. Defensive rating last year, I think, was top 10. Current, second last in the whole league. That's not a subtle jump. It's like you can't jump from the bottom of the league in offense and suddenly to number one and be like, oh, that was natural. Like it's such a jump. Like you're just
It would be like the Memphis Grizzlies all of a sudden acquiring Kevin Durant and going from third bottom of the league in scoring to first.
yeah, yeah. It's like, geez, that's a very unnatural event that you would not expect to so rapidly occur. Yet the Milwaukee Bucks pulled it off. Like they look like a different team. They look lost. They look like they're trying to figure out a new defensive scheme and stuff, but it just doesn't look right. They don't seem right, and maybe that'll get so.
If you can't outscore people in Milwaukee now, you're sunk. So if
Mm.
your shots aren't falling, you're hosed.
And that's kind of
And
like, right,
that's kind of the way it goes.
man. So we got Milwaukee that's looking shaky. I'll just call it as it is, and I'm sure they have enough benefit of the doubt to carry forth. But on the other end, there's Phoenix, who dropped two against the Spurs. Shout out to the dude of the weekend, Victor, who really took it like they wanted to win those games. And first response from any NBA fan, even the hardcores, would say Booker and Beal weren't playing. So, this is the whole point. Is like those dudes are
That's the
hungry.
word. I'm gonna go on a tangent here, G. Again, if you
Yeah,
don't mind.
yeah. Please hit it.
When and if I'm gonna do this to Kawhi and PG, I'm gonna do it to Devin Booker and Bradley Beal.
Thank you. Yes, yes.
If you're not in the lineup, nobody cares.
Mm.
Suit up your best
Ooh.
10 guys and go.
Mm-hmm.
I am tired of this league-wide epidemic of fans who go, our guys weren't playing, so it doesn't count.
Preach it.
Guess what? Guess what? You
Mm.
had 10 guys dressed and ready to go, or 8 guys, or whatever the minimum is. You had guys in Phoenix Suns jerseys out there ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was Bradley Beal and Devin Booker or not, it doesn't matter. They weren't in the lineup. And if
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be this way with Kawhi and PG and Anthony Davis and LeBron, I'm gonna be this way with Devin Booker and his teammates, Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant included. If you're not in the lineup, I don't give a flying you know what.
Mm.
Because your squad still played a game.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
what people miss. Your squad still played a game, whether you're in the lineup or not. It's 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 like, and I keep referring to us because it's the easiest thing for me to do.
Mm.
It's like the Raptor rundown. I would prefer to have you with me
Mm.
because we love talking Raptor ball,
Mm.
but that's not always possible. You're busy, I'm busy.
Mm-hmm.
We do the best we get you in as many episodes as we can because we love to talk Raptor ball.
Mm-hmm.
But whether you're here or not, the squad still has to put out the episode.
Mm.
I just prefer to have you with me.
That's
That's
exactly
the
it.
difference.
And you're not gonna
Your
define your
squad still
success
plays a
with
game.
them. Say again?
And if I'm gonna be this hard, I'm gonna be this hard on everybody
Mm.
because my credibility matters to me when you watch this podcast.
It's like, would you be able to call them like non-episodes? Like, oh, that wasn't a Raptor rundown because the whole team wasn't there. It's like, no, the thing still happened, so it happened, right? Like your
I still
team,
put it up.
yeah, like the game happened. It's on the it's on the books, whether your guys were there or not. So I think that is should be the new rule: is anytime we're talking about any team, any game, nobody should be allowed to say but injury. Like that should be cut from the vocabulary because it's going to ruin sports. Everybody's injured all.
If that was the case, the Lakers would be 65-17 because Anthony Davis doesn't play the majority of our games because we call them street clothes for crying out loud. So do I get to use the excuse of but Anthony Davis wasn't playing? No, people laugh at me when I do that.
Exactly. And man, when I see guys kind of just having too much fun on the sidelines, at and I get it. And, life is meant to be enjoyed, and all these great things, and you got money, and you're healthy, and you're with your friends. But as a competitor, as somebody that wants to see guys that care about games in absurd ways that really just defy logic, I don't like seeing Devin Booker and Bradley Beal just as chill and happy and goofy and just like, no worries, man. It's like, you could coach, you could focus, you could set a tone, you could just, I don't know, do a number of different things
Carry
to,
yourself like a professional, maybe.
yeah, do more in the off season like the season just started. How are you injured? Uh, I think it's because Booker maybe had a little fun time this summer. I'm sure he worked his ass off, but I'm sure he also had some fun.
It's like the old AD thing too, and he says I don't touch a basketball for a month, and I'm like, why? Why would you just take a month off of your profession?
And just the toll that takes on the body of having to get back in shape. Like there's certain guys that get it that you can't let your body go too far at all because the intensity is just too much. Like you have to maintain a certain level or you'll lose it and it'll be hard to get back.
And I did the Canucks Oilers stream last night, as you know, and it went fairly well for me.
Yeah.
So thanks everybody for that. That's a hockey stream, but
Yeah.
I have a point to this, and it reverts back to the channel as
Mm,
a whole, and at the buzzer by extension.
mm,
I was talking to one of my subscribers on the stream last night,
mm,
and I was like, "Man, if we hit 250 subs one day, I'll be shocked."
mm.
And he said, "Wait a second, Mo." He said, "Last year it was just the three of us hanging out during the Seahawks games, and look at the numbers you're pulling now." He said, "Your mindset has to change in terms of what you're doing. You're not as small as you think you are or as
Mm.
you believe you are. And your mindset, as far as the channel, has to change because you're growing." And I don't look at it that way. And
That's
maybe I
interesting.
need to start.
I like that, man. There's actually a quote that reminds me of it's like you rise as high as your highest aspirations, but you also fall as low as your sort of lowest definition of yourself. So if we're going to be able to, cycle between all of these through life, it really would matter then how high you're setting those aspirations because that sets the limit, right? It's sort of like if it's here, well, then yeah, you're likely not going to get to any higher than that because that's the imagination's limit. But if your aspirations are bigger, that the infinite thing comes up where it's like, yeah, get ready to be surprised because who
But
knows?
but it took that conversation because when I do content, for me, it's just I want something out there that I can be proud of.
Yeah.
When I do the last dance, for example, and I get a text the next day after it's been put up, hey man, I love the insight because that's stuff you don't get from ESPN.
Mm,
That's the stuff I care about, you
yeah.
know. and
Mm. Even
it's
just
just
bringing
one of
up.
those. It's one of those things where I adjust as I go,
Mm,
because I originally didn't think I did 100 subscribers, right? And now I'm like, well, Chugs, if we hit 250, I'll be surprised,
mm,
right? But that night we grew by 7 subscribers.
mm.
So, you know, it's
So
one of those things that you just never know.
yeah, and I like you said, when your ego comes from a place that makes you humble, it allows you to sort of approach with a humble perspective, right? But it also then allows for you to dream big without getting into a state of like
But that,
feeling too
but
big.
that's the problem. That's the problem that the Bucks have. They
Mm,
started up here.
mm. That is such a good analogy. Wow, that is on
I'm
point.
bringing the fire tonight, G. I'm
That
bringing
is
the
on
fire
point.
tonight, brother.
I almost forgot that that was going to connect to the thing there. Man, that is so true. The bar started right there. Like we got to be the best thing that anybody's ever seen on a court. And it's like, man, they may have done
See,
a little bit too much work that way before getting the humility down.
see,
You know?
see, that's the thing. This podcast, we're starting out small, but I guarantee you, G, one day we're gonna look back at this when we get to episode 200, 250, 300, and we're
Hmm.
gonna be like, remember the days when we used to pull 20 views an episode?
Yeah, it's nice when you can think of such things because it's all possible, right? It's all part of just
It's
doing what
all possible.
you know. When doing
But
what you
that's
love.
the problem. You notice how I tied it back to the basketball thing, though? I
Yeah,
went, this is the problem with the Bucks. They started up here.
yeah, that was smooth. If there could have been like a meme that described my head, it was just that slow motion explosion, just. uh,
Like I said, I'm smarter than people give me credit for when it comes to basketball.
mm,
I mean, you see it because you talk ball with me almost every day.
mm,
I mean, not to be too inside baseball here, but some nights we do a presser where I'll just create a link so I can talk to G
mm,
about basketball that we don't put on the podcast and we don't release to the people. And
mm,
we do that more for us
yeah,
just because we like to talk ball. Like, you're not just my co host, you're my friend,
yeah,
right? And that's what makes the podcast so enjoyable for
yes,
most people, I hope.
yes. Because
But
my favorite are like that, right? When I can tell there's a friendship going on beyond just their professional jobs, like there's a legitimate friendship there. Like I love watching and listening to that, right? So being part of that is.
yeah, so it's one of those things like the Bucks have to figure out not only how do we fit Dame into the rotation, because that is work to fit
Yeah,
a superstar like Dame in. But where's the defense going to come from now? Because we just traded it. And
yeah,
what's worse is, the piece we traded is in Boston, and we're going to have to play that piece in the playoffs.
and they upgraded their size and range, but they didn't get rid of golf energy. So we'll see.
And if you remember, I picked Boston to do some damage this year. I think I had them first or second in the East, didn't I?
I think so, and I think that'll hold strong. Like I think they haven't disappointed one bit. They're matching expectations. Like expectations were here, and they just maintained. But they also
And it
started
drives
there
me crazy.
years ago, building, 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 and now they really have put together some dynamic pieces at the very end here that are like, okay, yeah, let's see what you guys got. And they've really shown up and played like a team, knew their schemes, knew their roles. Everything's working as it should. It's cool to watch. The thing that I'm always going to hold against the Celtics until they prove me wrong is the Siakamitis. It's like when it counts the most, Tatum and Brown aren't that dude yet until they prove me wrong. And it's the same thing with like, I don't know how many examples of like the most critical times Tatum might be
That's
able
how
to
I
hold me, I'd like to see Brown defer to Tatum more because I think that alpha dog thing, he hasn't let go. I think he still thinks he
That's
can do
that.
alpha one.
But how you feel about the Celtics is how I feel about the Raptors.
Mm,
I always feel like they're not good enough to be good, and they're not bad enough to get good.
that's the Siakam.
But this has always been a problem in Toronto. This is not a Pascal problem. This has
Okay.
always been a problem in Toronto. We're
Is it a
always
small market?
decent enough to be we're always decent enough to be in the hunt for the playoffs. But you notice we're not really the team that ends up at the top of the East too often.
I mean, we had LeBronto for how long? Just LeBron coming in and taking over our city for how 6 years, something ridiculous
He
like that.
had us for lunch, man.
Every single year, it was. You want to talk embarrassing? That was sometimes embarrassing of just knowing.
But
Oh,
you
we're
know
down.
what? I go through the annals of the NBA, and that's not an excuse because Mike had to go through the Pistons. The
Exactly.
Pistons had to go through the Celtics. The Lakers had to go through the Celtics.
Hmm.
You know, there it's been proven throughout history that every team that is worth its salt has a roadblock. And
Yeah.
the Raptors can't always use the excuse of a roadblock.
No.
So,
To be the
e-
best, you have to beat the best. And at the time, LeBron and whatever team he was on was the best. They did not
excuse me while I have a Ric Flair moment there.
beat. Ooh. Uh,
But my point is, when it comes down to, because I think it's going to end up being Milwaukee and Boston in the East final.
whew. I think Milwaukee gets their stuff together, eh?
I I, I just think the East is so wide open, it's going to buy them time.
That's fair. That's fair. I Yeah, I just don't know where it's going to come from with this crew where it seems like you got all your pieces. They're all healthy.
And like I said, I keep
Yeah.
receipts too, and please keep receipts on me, people. Like for those of you who joined this podcast, keep my receipts. Show me I'm wrong, because I have been wrong. But G will tell you, I've been right the majority of the time on this podcast. I must be hitting at least an 80% clip at this point, G.
We should have a running log, but we're going to need a producer for that at some point.
Well,
Yeah,
we don't have a producer,
not yet.
so not yet.
Oh man. So, is there any final news of the week or plays of the week or storylines that have caught your attention?
Austin Reeves has come to play over the last week. I'm
Came
happy
back,
to see it.
yeah, 'cause he was
Uh,
staying.
he was really he was really struggling there, and he's
Mhm.
taken a lot of heat. And I defended him to my buddy G as well as my other friends.
Yeah,
They're like he's reverted back to the mean, and over the last week he's really upped his game a little bit to help the Lakers out. So I'm appreciative of that, even in losing efforts.
yeah, and
Um,
here's the scary thing about the Lakers, and props to him for taking this role, but to be the 3rd best player on that team and for it to be you, Austin Reeves, that's
and it shouldn't be. You've heard
that's a
me say
hell
this before.
that's a hell of a
It shouldn't
dynamic.
be Austin.
Yeah, like, that's too much for a guy that does not have that level of experience or talent to take on. Like, he'll take it, and he'll do his best, and he's carried it probably as well as anybody could carry it, but
Yes. And he's gonna have bad nights. I'm not saying that he's not gonna have bad nights, but I'm very proud of Austin.
this is respect for Reeves. It's just the Lakers roster makeup and the insanity of everybody calling it a championship lineup. When all we mean when we say that is that unless LeBron's injured, he's the most likely to push a group of athletes into the championship.
And
Take
the other
LeBron away,
storyline
and
and
you
the
have
other
Austin Reeves,
storyline
like,
and the other storyline I'd like to mention is the little brother Clippers.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's not just about James Harden, because
Mm.
this goes back to the game they played against LA when they had Gabe Vincent out, they had uh Hachimura was out, and there was another guy that was out. The Lakers were down three men, and the Clippers played Kawhi and Paul George and their entire crew, and they lost to an undermanned Laker team, which is the most Clipper thing a Clipper can do at Clipper time. And that's why I have zero faith in the Clippers. So that'll be an interesting storyline to follow throughout the year.
That'd be
Those
a
are
good
the
one.
two storylines that have caught my eye this
Yeah.
week, G.
I think
What has caught your eye over the last week?
oof, this one gives me nerves, and I just want to use collective thought to send out good energy to Jamal Murray, who tweaked his hamstring this week. Uh,
Oh no!
really the
Oh
one thing I don't
no!
hear anything of that about. But he's also the one guy that I trust will do the things necessary to ensure it's actually ready to go, and would never lie, would never shy away from a game. So that's the reason why I want to send so much good energy. Is he's that one dude I don't want to see anything bad happen to, but I know he'll
Good
rise up.
Canadian
No
kid
matter
too,
what.
by the way.
What's that?
I said good Canadian kid too, by the way.
Oh yeah, as I was playing with my nephew today, it was getting pretty cold and stuff, and I was like, man, drop it another 10, 15 degrees, and we're starting to get towards what Jamal Murray played in for the majority of his life.
But here's the thing with Jamal, and I want to echo those sentiments. Jamal, get well, do the right things, don't rush yourself back, Jamal.
It's like everybody trusts your word. Like your word is pretty much untarnished at this point.
And that's what I mean. Like the Denver Nuggets, they need Jamal Murray. But the good thing about the Denver Nuggets is they know they need Jamal Murray, and
Yeah,
they need a healthy Jamal Murray.
yeah, yeah, and they'll take their time with that. They won't force him into anything that's not going to work or endanger him. So I respect that quite a bit too. Um,
And I'm gonna be consistent here. I know the Nuggets have been losing their share of games. And I don't care if Jamal's out. Your squad was on the floor. Games still count. I'm being consistent
Minnesota.
across the board on this one.
Yeah, man, Minnesota beat them, and then who was the second team to beat them? Can't think of the top of my head, but Golden State is looking interesting too. I wanted to bring them up as another big hitter, and I do have a special love for what Steph and Clay have done for the game. It was cool to see Clay hit that buzzer beater. Uh,
Ah, that was nice, wasn't it?
it just felt good to
I
see.
got
It felt
just like old times.
like again adversity, man. You can't argue that that guy has had some major adversity, especially in the last year and a bit. And it was almost writing him off for a lot of reasons, right? Of like, is he still that guy that you could give it the last second and win the game? Yes, he is. He certainly is, and he get just it was so nice to see. Uh,
I have one other team that I want to talk about before we close the episode here. We got about what 17 minutes left, 16 minutes left.
oh yeah, yeah.
The Memphis Grizzlies. The poor Grizzlies.
Oof,
They've
got
lost Steven
reps.
Adams for the year. They've
Yo,
lost they've lost Jaw for 25 games. They're 1-6 or 1-7. I can't remember which.
has anybody
But
seen
they got
him? By the way, like, because he's supposed to be
not that
allowed.
I not that I'm aware of that anybody's seen it.
I wonder if
But
that's a good thing or bad thing.
but what are your thoughts on the Grizzlies to this point this season?
It's time to come home. Come on back to Vancouver. We'll take care of you here. Don't worry about what happened in Tennessee. We'll all forget about that, okay? It's
We'll
fine. Just
all forget
come
about
home.
it.
I think they're in a really bad state where it's actually at a point of franchise danger zone. They're not a huge market. They don't have a ton of legacy. Like Memphis isn't born of 100 years of basketball NBA style. Like they they're a newish franchise that built off another expansion team. So I think their franchise is in jeopardy right now. And what a swing from like being number one in the West at times last year when all things were cooking, to embarrassing yourselves in the first round of the playoffs, and then this bottom of the league, no hope, fighting for a win, just to get one win, to get the media off your back from being 0-8 or whatever it would have been. Um, I
Is
hope
is
that some of those guys, but Yikers Island, if I can use that term.
by the time John gets back, it's gonna be too late too.
Dude, I feel like if I was John came back, it would be that tumbleweed rolling, just like, what happened here, man? Like, like, holy, like you burnt
Well,
the whole town down.
losing Steven Adams for the year is gonna hurt them as well.
He's a linchpin to that whole thing, right? He was probably the most mature, like physically intimidating, and just that dude in the middle. Defensively, offensively, he was consistent. And to lose him for the year is already a season under for the Grizzlies in my books. But to essentially not have Jaw for the year, because let's be honest, this is weird. He's not going to come back in flying form. So you've lost those two guys. Isn't there another injury? It's looking so ugly that I would try to probably, I don't know, poach a player or two if I were making a run. If I was Orlando, or if I was Dallas, even somebody like that that's right on the fringe of the middle pack, I'd be looking to Memphis to be like, how in love with you are, like with specific role players that actually have some interesting elements. Probably wouldn't be able to get Desmond Bain or Jared Jackson, but there's some other interesting guys on there that,
There's some interesting guys on that squad.
yeah, yeah, I'd be in poaching mode if I were the NBA, and if I was in Memphis, I don't know, man. I'm in like just SOS. Anybody got any ideas?
it,
Like, just don't hurt us. Like, please just let us
it
be
it
horrible
it
for a year.
doesn't sound like you have too much empathy for the Grizzlies though out there in Memphis.
Yeah, they did it to themselves. And Steven Adams injuries are injuries, but everything else is you do it to that they did it to themselves, and they're gonna have to take a year off. And like that's it. Like, so let's see how they do in that year off. Will they go the way of Detroit into sort of permanent irrelevancy, toxic organization ish, this and that?
Well, at least Detroit has a kind of a built-in excuse where their city's falling apart.
Yeah, and they at least have legacy, and they at least have a bit of like history to why and how things have happened the way they've happened. Because yeah, the city is the symbol of like the fall of America. The end of at home manufacturing, right? Like all those working class people got moved out of that city all at once. Like it was an exodus. Um, Once the free trade
So
thing.
it'll be interesting if they go the Detroit route or if they go the New Orleans route where they're kind of still relevant, but not really that relevant. And I don't mean no disrespect, Pelicans fans, but you know what I'm talking about. You're relevant enough to be relevant, but you're one step away to irrelevancy.
And when you're in that category, I got to think that there is room for the NBA to do one or two switch ups in terms of cities still. I think they might do an expansion, whether that's a one team or two. We'll see whether they add another one to Vegas, because it's got Vegas. Vegas, Seattle, maybe. But let's say they move a couple cities around too. I think Memphis is on the chopping block for that right now. It's sort of like business opportunity wise, the NBA can do things with a franchise that's in a city with a whole new set of excitement. And this is going to be tough for Memphis to come back from. I don't know how you rally.
Here's my pushback to that.
Mm.
Do you really want to relocate a franchise a third time, knowing that it had trouble building roots in two different other cities?
And I think maybe you learn from your mistakes and choose a bigger city. Like that's where my mind would go as a business NBA thing is like,
But Vegas is a tourist town.
you know what I mean? Like, let's
They
go big.
don't
Um,
they don't really have a team to call their own.
who's that?
Like even for the Golden Knights,
Oh,
most of the fans that go to the Golden Knight games are of the away teams. because Vegas is a tourist town.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So
Um,
if you so if you can't settle roots in Vancouver and you can't settle roots in Memphis, what the heck makes you think you're going to do it in Las Vegas, Nevada?
but here's a question: is it due to the roots, or could we blame this all on one person in both cases? And this is obviously a joke-ish. Steve Francis and John Morant. If they go the way of normal superstars, do not both franchises flourish and everybody's happy and just great, Houston Rockets style rise, and then if we had Ja, like he just stayed the course and he just didn't play with little water pistols and things like that, like would it not be a completely different story? And not to put it all on one dude, but you can't say that that isn't a narrative that just changed everything.
But you're taking Jaw to Vegas. That's the problem.
In my mind, I wouldn't be switching to Vegas. I'd do an expansion to Vegas, and I'd switch Memphis to a city that is unexpected. That's going to be big. Like I'd make a splash internationally, honestly. Not Vancouver, probably, but maybe not even Canada. But
What do
I
you
would
think about St. Louis?
see that might be interesting. Primarily black city. You got a lot of roots there. You got a lot of man hardworking people that would love a team there. It's almost similar to Memphis, so I think you could get away with the ownership size being excited about something like that. So yeah, I think that franchises might be a little bit cursed or something because the Grizzlies, man, this is almost a repeat story of like the lead guy destroying your franchise by being just selfish, like just young, immature, and selfish. Not to put him down or anything. It's just we all have moments like that, and we're all always works in progress. But he had a lot of weight on his shoulders, and he kind of broke, and the franchise was sitting on it, right? So I'd like them to go to a big city like St. Louis, maybe somewhere like I know Texas already has quite a few teams, but those big cities in Texas that love their
Uh,
sports.
Cali's out too because Cali's got too many franchises
Yeah, so
already.
yeah, so maybe you're looking
By
more.
the way, by the way, how about the Rockets knocking off the Kings the other night? Huh? Shout out to the Rockets.
I did not see that, but there's a team that has some interesting pieces, right? That's not looking to win right now, but on any given night, they might just give you a game because they want to, and suddenly you're in a game, right? Shengun, he's a bad man. He's in the formation of becoming a bad man.
And not only did they beat the Kings, are you ready for this score from last night?
Yo,
122 for Houston at the Toyota Center versus 97 for the Kings. Go ahead, G. Eat your lunch here in the last 7 minutes of the show.
did De'Aaron Fox get injured?
Yeah, I like how your first reaction is congratulations to the Rockets and De'Aaron Fox to get injured.
Yeah, and like literally after I just said that's a new rule, we can't mention injuries. That's my first question because it's shocking for an offense that averages 115 points a game or whatever it was last season um, to an under 100 performance against a non-playoff team or play-in team is a staggering sort of like whoa, what happened there? So your mind immediately goes to like, was there X factors like that? Doesn't have to be. Houston is just a solid team if they want to be. I don't think they want to be yet, but I think on any given night they've got pieces that can be a solid team, and I'm here for it, man. I'm here to see Freddie do a little bit of mentoring, and
Well, remember I said in the preseason, I said Houston can go 22-60 or 50-32, and I'm leaning towards the 22-60, but the 50-32 would be fun, wouldn't it?
yeah,
That's what I said in the preseason, and
and
I
if
told you they'd be fun to watch. I told
yeah,
you they'd be fun to watch.
they've got enough guys on there that if other teams start falling, they might smell blood in the water and go, "Hey, let's take a run, get some playoff experience." And they've actually got those dudes that could make it competitive and painful for other teams of like, oh, come on, Houston? It's like, yeah, they got some really nice little pieces there that work well complementary wise and don't seem to have bad vibes. They seem to have a pretty kicking team. You know, to maybe end on a vibe conversation, which team do you think has the best overall energy to them right now in each conference? Like who's got swagger, who's playing in rhythm, and who maybe a team that we haven't mentioned to shake it out.
Um, Oklahoma City Thunder. I like the vibes in OKC.
Okay.
Shea Gilchrist Alexander has really elevated his game and by extension elevated the Thunder. And they're not going to be the joke of the league this year. And if you want to talk about good vibes again, I know I brought them up before. I'm going to bring them up again. The Orlando Magic have nothing to do but smile. They've played great. I don't care what the record says. They've played great. They've made a statement this year that we're not going to be bullied by teams
Mm,
this year.
yeah.
And I think if you're asking me which two teams in the conferences have the best vibes, I
Mm.
would say Oklahoma and Orlando. And it doesn't even matter to me what the records say.
Yeah, well, those are really good picks. I'm curious when OKC is going to pull the trigger, if you know what I mean. You stack 35 draft picks at a certain point. If I'm Shea, hey guys, are we going to make a go at anything ever? Or are we just going to
And
stack
that's
to infinity? Because that's cool and all, but I'm going to go play for a different team. You got to
and
swing it.
we'll leave you on that cliffhanger because the show's over.
You know,
So I guess the next question is OKC gonna pull the trigger on a move that helps the
ooh,
Oklahoma City Thunder?
I like that.
And that being the huh?
Let's keep our eyes on Orlando too. I think OKC and Orlando are two watch teams for trades, for making a go at things that might surprise people.
That's right. And this has been episode 7 of the At the Buzzer podcast. I'm Mo Money. He's G. And until next time, may your ego always come from a place that keeps you humble. I'm Mo Money. Mamba out.